In case you missed it, here's Dave and Cheryl's favorite moments of the week. And now it's time for...
1, 2, 3, 4.
It's random.
Is that a fact?
Is that a fact?
4 random facts.
The Swedish government owned Absolute Vodka until 2008. They sold it for approximately $6.3 billion to a company that makes all kinds of alcohol, including Seagram's, Jameson Irish Whiskey, Kahlua, and Malibu Rum.
So they know what they're doing when it comes to booze. We'll say that much. Hey, the original stop sign debuted back in 1915, but they looked a little different. At first, they were smaller than the ones we have now, and they featured black letters on a white background. In the 1920s, they switched from black to yellow, and they didn't become red until 1954.
And that makes way more sense. You see the red and it just pops out a bit more. Did you know this? Horses and sharks are both apparently ticklish. Although you probably don't want to go around and tickle any sharks to test that theory.
Well, I mean, maybe not like a great white shark, but so if I'm getting attacked, I should tickle it?
Maybe not
To
punch it
let
in the
go?
nose, just a little tickle.
To let go.
Get it giggling and then you can take off.
And finally, this is good to know. If you ever travel to Antarctica and you need cash, there's actually 2 ATMs there. They're both run by Wells Fargo, so you have to have a Wells Fargo account. Otherwise, I don't even want to know what the ATM fees are like.
There's your 4 random facts.
Today's
1, 2,
4
So random.
random.
Give the public the facts.
4 random facts.
Yum.
Science.
It's not rocket science. Check it out. I blinded us with science.
Well, check out this first story. A software engineer at Google was suspended after claiming a new chatbot named LAMDA has become sentient and has feelings now. Wait, what? He posted a long conversation he had with it, and it's pretty freaky. Experts disagree with him, though. They say the bot just is really good at mimicking human language. Now, a related survey asked people if they think computers will ever have feelings. 21% said yes. Again, we've seen the start to this, and it becomes the Terminator. So, how about we pull the plug?
What was it? iRobot, right? Thinking of
Either
that
one.
one. Hey, in space news, China released then deleted a report that said they may have picked up signals from an alien civilization. Or it could just be a glitch. Who knows?
In pet news, researchers found that when dogs think of their favorite toys, their brains can remember what each toy looks and smells like. And a study also found cats might go crazy for catnip because it works as a natural bug repellent. Should we be trying out catnip?
I was just wondering that.
Work for
Or
us?
sprinkle it around, maybe?
Rub it on yourself?
And finally, scientists have found a way to create soundproof wallpaper. Apparently, they use moth wings as their inspiration because the scales on the wings can absorb noise, and researchers believe it could revolutionize noise-canceling technology because it'd be very thin. So instead of, these bulky soundproofing panels, they could achieve an even better result with this ultra-thin wallpaper. So they looked at moth wings. They actually can block out about 87% of sound waves, even when placed against a hard surface like a wall. Now, it's too early to say when the new technology will be applied to new products, but I'm sure it won't be too long.
Boy, it would take you forever to put together wallpaper made of moth wings, wouldn't it? Just so small, you'd have... But the other thing with that? Wallpaper would have to come back into style again, right? You ever tried to peel wallpaper off?
Mike and I talked about this. I'm not a fan of wallpaper just because I've had to put it up and take it down.
Yes.
I know other people, though, are into it for like an accent, though.
Well, yeah, that seems like a good idea when you try and just start until there's 18 layers underneath there if you're in an older home. And nothing takes that down. You can even try a flamethrower. I've heard of squirrels causing issues with power lines before, but I've never heard of this.
A beaver. It's very Canadian, Dave. But utility officials out in BC say a beaver got the blame for a big internet outage that happened in an area there. Apparently, an aspen tree fell on lines, interrupting the internet cell and landline services in the area. When workers arrived, they found shoe marks on the tree, a sign that had been taken down by a beaver. And it took about 8 hours before they got the services restored. No evidence to suggest the beaver had been harmed. It was just the teeth marks they found left behind.
I wonder if the beaver was like, oh, man. And when after it happened, he's like, I'm out. I don't want to be blamed for this.
Well, maybe because he did it. And now he's like, well, there goes my satellite TV, my cell service, guys. Ugh.
Did you see this video? It was floating around a few days ago. A stray dog found himself in the gorilla habitat at the San Diego Zoo Safari Park recently, and Franklin, the silverback gorilla, and his partner were not pleased with the intruder. And the pup was running around, and they were kind of chasing him a bit, too. Park employees were able to recall the two gorillas so the dog could be removed. The dog, now known as Muddy Joe Young, was uninjured and is now in a shelter.
Glad that he's okay, though. Mm-hmm. And finally, this woman over in China raised an injured puppy she found for 2 years. But recently, the dog started acting kind of strange. It was walking on its hind legs. And the more he grew, the more he started to look like a bear. So she took it to a wildlife rescue center to get a second opinion. And it turns out it's actually an endangered black bear. She'd been raising it for 2 years thinking it was a dog.
I wonder if it was like undersized a bit, maybe? Because she got it so small?
Maybe it was the runt or something, and then she was able to kind of nurse it back to health. Well, on the black market, the bear actually sells for thousands, but she gave it over to the rescue center, so he's now living with other bears like him.
I wonder if there was any other animals in the house that were trying to convince her, like a cat or something. Yeah, this is no dog. No dog I've ever seen before.
And then you sent me a video over the weekend of a friendly black dog running around a soccer pitch of a women's soccer game, just looking for belly rubs from the players.
It was fantastic.
Apparently, it was between Chile and Venezuela, and luckily, they were able to scoop the dog up and get him off. They struggled at first, though, because they thought he'd be following him, and then he'd nope, divert. Go find belly rubs somewhere else.
And they were rubbing his belly, but then the dog would take off again as they got close, and the crowd was into it and cheering the dog on. I don't know if it's actually someone's dog or if it's a stray. Hopefully that dog ends up in a good home where he can run around and get lots of belly rubs. Well, we've got several stories today about the benefits of coffee.
Yeah, so there have been studies that have said coffee drinking is good for you, but usually when that's the case, they say it has to be black. You can't have any creamers or sugar in there. But researchers over in China actually studied more than 170,000 people over 7 years, and they found that moderate consumption of unsweetened and sugar-sweetened coffee was associated with lower risk of death.
Isn't that interesting? So it appeared that it helped on both fronts, whether it was, just regular unsweetened coffee or those that put a little bit of, sugar in there.
Yeah, so lightly sweetened on average was 1 spoonful of sugar, and that's real sugar. We're not talking about the artificial sweeteners. We're talking real sugar.
Interesting to note, results were inconclusive for people that used artificial sweeteners in their coffee. Well, from coffee, is there anything you can't do? File researchers are saying drinking coffee can lead to mood improvements as we end up, rolling through the summer and getting into the fall.
Now, this survey found that more than a quarter of adults experienced depression and increased feelings of sadness as it got closer to winter. But they found that 29% of people who drink coffee during the fall feel more energized, and 21% said coffee actually helps them with their concentration.
And even the aroma can help with a whole lot of things, too, from memory enhancement and more. People, of course, using caffeine for social aspects as well as increasing physical energy. I used to play hockey with a guy that would drink black coffee before every game.
Well, how is that any different than maybe drinking an energy drink or pre-workout? Mm-hmm. That kind of thing. But how about this? Apparently one coffee can help you be more awesome faster. Well, with your multitasking anyway.
Do I turn into Sonic?
Yes. Researchers found that participants were faster at a button-pushing test if they drank coffee before they did the test. So specifically, those who took the test without drinking coffee beforehand were 0.68 seconds slower when pressing multiple buttons. So if you had to hit multiple buttons, like this one, then this one, and multitask, you were slower than someone who had a coffee and you turned into Sonic the Hedgehog.
And you got multiple octopus arms and you're just going all over the place. Well, those days when you're kind of tired and you bring in some extra caffeine.
Now, what if they test you after the caffeine wears off and you have that crash and you're then you're slower maybe?
Well, it's hard to test you if you're asleep, so that probably wouldn't work. But those days when you have that extra jolt of coffee, right? And then somebody says, it's windy today. And you're like, I can see the wind. You're just just want to get through every task that much faster. Coffee. Is there anything it can't do? You've been to Disney a couple of times, once when you were younger and then a little bit older with your family and whatnot too. I've never really had a desire to go though because of the crowds. And at the time when my kids were little, money was so tight that there was just no way I could have done that.
Well, and things have changed. I have found so much over the years from when I first went which I was probably in grade 7 or 8, was the very first time I went to Disney World. And then I went again when I was in university a couple times. I was down in Florida and we just did like a one-day type thing there. And then a few years ago, right before the pandemic, we went down. And it was so different again, the way they did everything. But now, if you want to go to Disney World around the world, there is a new travel package for that. It's called Disney Parks Around the World. And it's only going to set you back about $110,000.
$110,000. Disney describes it as, quote, a bucket list adventure. And they will fly you to all the parks on a private jet in one 24-day, 23-night trip.
So you get to go to all 12 of their parks, Tokyo, Shanghai, Hong Kong, and Paris. And then along the way, you get to stop at other famous places like the Taj Mahal or the Great Pyramid of Giza. You get all your meals and accommodation included, and they're only selling 75 tickets. So yes, you are still traveling in a group. This is not all completely private. And if you do want to do it alone, so they're assuming for $110,000 that you're traveling with a friend or family member who's also paying that much. If you want to travel alone, that's an extra fee of $11,000.
The trip is scheduled for July 9th to August 1st of next year, and people have already been hitting up their website to check it out.
AdventuresByDisney.com if you feel like, dropping that much money.
And waiting in line, I guess?
If you like standing in line for hours, if you enjoy the sound of kids whining because they're hungry and tired, and if you've got a couple of $100,000 just burning a hole in your pocket, Disney has the vacation for you. It's the Disney Global Travel Package. For just $110,000 per person, you get to stand in line all over the world.
Hong Kong, California, Paris, Tokyo, Orlando, Shanghai, and more.
If you thought spending a weekend at Disney World was exhausting, wait till you do it a dozen times with jet lag, trying to speak another language.
Please wait here.
Disneyland,
ここでお待ちください.
where dreams
Wait just one more hour.
and nightmares come true.
Something that might be older in your home that if, someone younger saw it or found it, they'd have no idea what it is. This all came about. We were inspired because of a mom that said she was cleaning out the basement and came across something older, and her daughter was really confused.
Cleaning out the basement. I've got some of my childhood boxes out here, and my daughter says this. What did you just ask me?
It looks like some ancient history storyteller.
Ancient history. This is a cassette tape. This is how we used to listen to music and how we recorded music from the radio. This is how we saved Are you serious?
I'm dead serious.
You're dead serious. You don't know what this is?
No. It looks like you shake it or something.
No, it probably has all my favorite songs from the radio.
You pull it or something?
No, you have to put it in a cassette player.
So what do you put them in?
She was completely confused by the whole thing, so that got us thinking about what's something older you may have. You 519-351-6300. So if someone younger came over to your home and they were like, what is this? We got a text from Alice saying old can openers of various types.
Mm-hmm.
You know the one that has the little pointy end that is almost like a knife?
I have one. Someone brought me one because we were talking about them last year.
But I'm not even talking about the ones to open it up to pour juice. There was one that was almost like a little knife end of it, and you'd use it to go around the can, and it was really sharp on the one end. I remember my parents having one.
That sounds super safe.
Oh, 70s. We had lawn darts, too. Maybe that would confuse someone younger. So give us a text message, 519-351-6300. What's something you may have around your home that would confuse someone younger?
Joanne texted us to say she's got a number of things. Turn down that story. She said, I have a portable cassette player, a fruitcake tin, and a hat box. Oh, yeah. They'd be like, what is this hat box? You'd say it's a hat to keep your hat in. They'd be like, what?
She also said a shaving mirror that was on a stand that held the round bar of soap.
Yep.
So send us a text message and let us know what is something you might have still kicking around your home right now that someone younger would go, what?
What is this?
We also just got a text message in saying roller skate key. See, I never had roller skates, but I know you're supposed to, the key locks the wheels, right?
Is that so someone can't steal them and skate away?
I guess. I wouldn't even know that. See, that confuses me, and I'm older. Well, but I never had roller skates.
Well, I never had roller skates. I don't think we had a roller skating place in town when I was a kid. I was just thinking, if my nephews came over and saw my iPod, They would have no idea what to do with that.
Nutcracker is what I was saying earlier. That might confuse some people. The old school meat grinders. My mom used to have one. Went on the counter and, hand cranked. So you drop the meat in there and away you'd go. Gene earlier said things like old records, 45s, 33s, and 78s.
Oh, yeah.
Might confuse someone younger. Well, if you've never really been around a record player. Of course, an old phone, right? Especially a rotary.
A rotary phone, but then I saw someone say even just a regular, a portable phone, because so many people don't have home phones anymore. They've only ever really seen cell phones. They have no idea what to do. My friend Michelle just texted me, said a ink blotter. So after you sign something, you blot it so it doesn't smear. Like if you're signing documents and then you blot it.
Okay.
So that
I know what you're
smear.
talking about. I've never had one. Someone else just texted saying a manual transmission car. Well, that's confused how many thieves over the years, too, right? And then they would have no idea.
They get in and then they're like, never mind. And then run away.
So the person that texted us about the roller skate key just texted again. They said, no, it tightens the straps and adjusts the foot size.
Oh, okay.
That makes way more sense, because it would be bad if it locked the wheels and you forgot the key. You'd be going down pretty quick. So it tightens the straps and helps adjust the size. That makes a little bit more sense now.
Okay.
What about VCRs? Or VCR tapes?
My nephew came to me. We were at my sister and brother-in-law's, and we were hanging out in the basement. He found a VHS tape of the first Grinch and was like, can we watch this? And I was like, I don't think we have a VCR in the house for you to watch this on.
And that would even be confusing. There'll come a time when CDs are going to be confusing. What about floppy disks? If you had some of those in a box, someone younger would be, I have no idea, because most computers don't even have them anymore.
Yeah, it just looks like the save icon on your computer. That's what the disc is now.
Well, newer computers, a lot of them don't even have somewhere to put a CD-ROM either.
No, because you gave me a CD, and then I was like, where am I supposed to listen to this? And you were like, in your car? And I'm like, my car doesn't have a CD player anymore. And my laptop doesn't have a CD player anymore. I don't know what to do. I'm so lost now.
8-tracks would be another. Do you remember 8-tracks?
I do remember 8-tracks. I remember my friend Lindsay, we drove her grandparents' car. They had an older car the one time, and we took it out, and it had an 8-track player. And so there was a whole rack of 8-tracks that we could pick from to listen to in the car.
My brother had one, and it was in his vehicle, a little sports car he had at that time. And it was like, don't touch that, it's high tech. But then sometimes it would jam, and I remember him pulling it out and all the tape coming out along with it too.
Well, and at least with the cassette, you could use the pencil, right? Mm-hmm. To wind it back in.
Someone else saying a track radio. Now, are you talking about one with a dial on it? Maybe, because the kids got me a few years ago one of those combo record players and cassette players for Christmas.
Okay.
And it's got a radio on there, but it's like an old school dial on it, so it kind of scans across. It's not digital.
Yeah.
So
I think my alarm clock is like that.
Even an alarm clock for a lot of kids now. An actual
just set your cell phone, right?
Alarm clock, whether it's digital or the old school ones that had the bells on them. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Those alarm clocks that would wake up half the neighborhood when it went off. Well, you can let us know. What's something you might have that's older in your home that kids would not understand? Maybe you could say grandpa. I have grandpa in the house and the younger kids come over. They don't understand grandpa.
You've been listening to Dave and Cheryl's favorite moments of the week.